Hi guys, my name is Chad Trofgruben, and you are watching Chad Chat. Last week I talked to you a bit about a new website that I created. It was a message board called Cartoonists in Cahoots, where animators and all types of artists could come together and showcase their works and collaborate and so on. Well, I am happy to report in only a week's time, we have already gained 40 members. On top of that, we have numerous discussions going, people showcasing their work, people getting help, people collaborating, and so on. So it's going great, and I'm really happy with the results. If you're still interested in this community, I definitely recommend you go to cartoonistincahoots.com, sign up for an account, and join the discussion. So now let's refocus to today's topic. I've gotten a couple of questions asking how to deal with writer's block. So how do you approach writer's block? How do you get rid of it? How do you move past it? Well, let's talk about that in today's Chad Chat. Just so you know, there is no definitive way to get rid of writer's block. Some methods work for others, some don't. It really just depends on the way you work and what type of person you are. But hopefully, these three methods will help some of you when dealing with writer's block. So first, I would recommend looking for inspiration somewhere else. So let's say you are stuck on a certain scene in your film or your animation when you're writing. Well, you could go watch a movie. And let's say that movie has a really great action sequence that you just love. Well, you could take that inspiration and apply it to that scene you might be having trouble with. And it doesn't have to be an action sequence. I'm just using that as an example. Your animation may have nothing to do with action. But by looking at the way it was shot, or the way the two people were fighting in it, for instance, maybe the music, maybe the setting, whatever. I mean, let's say you're trying to find some, climatic ending to your film, and you see this awesome fight taking place in this on top of a building or something, and you could apply that or tweak it and find inspiration from that and apply it then to your own film. Now, I'm not telling you to copy the film that you're watching because that's wrong and you shouldn't do that. But finding inspiration, there's nothing wrong with that. The same applies to music. Let's say you listen to some music and the lyrics or the way the music sounds can motivate you. Or you could think of the scene and try to apply the scene to that music. That's sometimes what I do. Even though you might not use that music, it can still kind of get the creative juices flowing. Or you can find inspiration in everyday situations. Maybe you have an instructor or a boss that's a little bit eccentric. Well, you could try to find some humor in that and maybe try to apply those character traits to a character in your animation or film, or a setting, and so on. So, again, finding inspiration, it can be difficult, but it is there. Inspiration's all around us. So I would definitely recommend that you try that if you are looking to get past a certain point in your animation writing process. Now, number two, I would recommend bouncing ideas off of people, because this is something that I do quite a bit. I have a friend who does filmmaking, and he also writes films and all that kind of stuff. And we have similar sensibilities when it comes to filmmaking and animation. So if I ever get stuck, I usually come to him and I'm like, okay, here's what I'm doing, and this is where I'm stuck. What do you think? I'll get his thoughts on the plot that I have up to that point, and then he can offer his input. And usually it works because, again, he and I have similar thought process on how a film should flow. And so that's a really great asset to have. And so his ideas tend to usually work for what I'm looking for. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have a filmmaking friend in order to bounce the ideas off of people. You could find just someone, a friend, a family member, and ask them, hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think of this? And just get their ideas. You never know. Ideas come from anywhere. So that's one thing you can do as well. And finally, you could do something like go on a message board, like for instance, cartoonistincahoots.com. That's not a plug. And you could sign up and post your synopsis of your episode and see what our members think of it. And they could also offer their input. So One last thing I will say about this, though, is if you are going to go around and post your synopsis, let's say on a message board, you might want to not reveal all the details because, unfortunately, there are people out there who like to steal ideas. And sometimes you just don't want those ideas to get out. And, it's unlikely in a scenario like I have described above, like our community, I doubt that would ever happen. But you never know who's reading the message board, people who are not registered, who can come in and, take ideas. So that's where maybe like private messaging comes in handy on a message board like that, or something similar. So again, sharing ideas is great. Asking for ideas is great. I would just say be careful who you share those ideas with, because you never know. I've heard horror stories of people's ideas being taken. So I'm just going to throw that caution out there before you start throwing your ideas around every point on the web. So the third and final point I have to offer is get away from the computer. That's what I do. If you're writing on the computer and you're just having a hard time, just get away from it. Step away. Do something. Sometimes I play video games because I'm a big video game fan, but that's kind of a double-edged sword because I can sit down and, okay, I'm going to play a video game and try to, just decompress for a little bit here, and I'll end up playing a video game longer than I want to, and I'll waste a lot of valuable time. Meanwhile, I would prefer other methods to getting away from the computer, like exercising. That's one thing I really like to do. I like to go for jogs. I have my rebounder right back here, so when the weather's not favorable, I can do exercises on that. It really is a great way to unclog the works in your head. It might seem a little bit odd, but usually when I exercise, I have a clear head and I can focus on things. I can focus on stuff that I'm having troubles with. So I would recommend something of a physical activity if you have the means. Other than that, find another hobby, play a video game, watch some TV, talk to someone, go for a walk, whatever it takes. But get away from it for a little while and try to clear your head and come back to it with fresh eyes. And those are my 3 tips for you for today. I hope you find them useful. And again, there is no right way to get rid of writer's block. It just depends on the person. But hopefully, if none of these tips work, you can find your own way to move past that and continue on with your writing. But anyway, that's all for me today. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to visit chadchat.incredibletutorials.com, and you can fill out the contact form there and submit your question. I'm also, of course, on YouTube, so you can submit questions there, or you can leave comments on my videos. I am also on Twitter, and I have Google Plus and Facebook pages, so you can check those out as well and leave your questions there if you wish. And of course, I am on Cartoonist and Cahoots. So if you are interested, I definitely recommend you sign up to that. So anyway, I hope you guys found this episode useful, and I will see you next week.